Welcome back, everybody, to our video series at CFSA on the Farm Bill 2023 and our legislative and policy push leading towards that for policy change. My name is Matt Neese. I am the South Carolina Policy Coordinator for CFSA.
And I'm Jalen Cates, and I work in North Carolina, also on the policy team at CFSA.
Well, once again, we thank you for joining us. Jalen, if you could take just a few moments and kind of talk about procurement as well as the Fresh Produce Procurement Reform Act and why people watching this video should care.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks, Matt. So there were several things that we've learned recently. One through COVID. One was that local regional food systems could really stand up and be the backbone for our food supply chains during a time of emergency. And the second thing we learned was that USDA needed to change their way of procuring emergency food to better access those local and regional markets. So the Fresh Produce Procurement Reform Act is a marker bill. We've talked about marker bills before, which are basically bills designed to gain traction and interest in a topic or a theme towards the Farm Bill. So FPPRA is a marker bill that would create a new emergency food distribution program and model at USDA based on what was learned through COVID and the programs done by USDA during COVID.
So is the model going to be based kind of off USDA's Farmers Feeding Families program? And if so, how does that compare to CFSA's existing program, Farm Share?
Yeah, it's very similar. Farmers Feeding Families, evolved over the pandemic. Starting off, it was very much so sourcing from a few states and from large distributors. And in its later iterations, was starting to source from more smaller and mid-sized growers and from socially disadvantaged producers. And that's what our program at CFSA Farm Share started off from the beginning was the goal to source from small and mid-sized BIPOC producers to serve folks in need during COVID. And that's what FPPRA would do. It instructs USDA to create this new emergency feeding program where they would partner with existing farmers and distributors and food hubs to pack and distribute fresh fruits and vegetables with nonprofit partners. And they would have access to more nutritious, fresher food because they would have been sourced locally. And it would instruct USDA to consider different things than just lowest cost in their bidding process, which is a really big deal. So it changes the way USDA does their bidding and it allows them to prioritize sourcing from small regional BIPOC socially disadvantaged producers over just the lowest cost. So it really is taking the lessons that they learned and putting it into action in this new program.
So it sounds like this is almost a type of almost a guaranteed income for farmers. But one of the things we found during COVID was just how uncertain markets were for a lot of these socially disadvantaged producers. So, I mean, from a market stability standpoint, it seems like this is pretty critical for a lot of not just socially disadvantaged producers, but rural producers in general and producers of all types. So, from our members' perspective, let me ask you, I mean, how can people support this bill as a marker bill and the inclusions of its provisions within the overall farm bill next year?
Yeah, so I mean, just a quick example. I mean, there was folks in rural North Carolina who were trying to help feed their community during COVID, but Farmers Feeding Family boxes, they tried to get in on that. They couldn't get in on it. And then all this free food ended up getting shipped in from out of state into their community, which was great for folks in need, but it was like a double whammy for, a farm business that had lost their business, was trying to serve folks in need, and now all of a sudden there's a bunch of free food there to serve their community. So how much better would it have been for that food to have been sourced locally, supporting that local economy? So it's really the fix. And so folks like that, they're taking the lead and getting out in front. They're meeting with Congressman David Rouser in District 7 to tell him, how this impacts their farm business and how these changes, should there be another emergency like COVID, would really benefit both communities and producers. So folks can reach out to us. The Food System Advocacy Coalition is starting to engage on this issue. And Matt and I will be meeting with our congressional delegation over 2023. to ask for folks to co-sign and sponsor the FPPRA. So please let us know, and we'll get you in touch with your congressional office and schedule a meeting with you and figure out a way that we can all advocate together.
That's awesome. And I mean, it's safe to say we need people from both Carolinas to join us on this advocacy push, especially for procurement. So we're glad you could join us today. It's very important information. We're glad you could take the time to learn a little bit more about what the Farm Bill does. So thank you for watching. We look forward to catching you on our next video. And until then, this is Matt and Jalen signing off.
Bye.